Hey YouTube, and welcome to this episode of the Gunman. So this video here is part 3 on this Honda Integra Type R. The first video went through the repair, primer, prep work and masking stages. Second video went through the base coat stage, and this video here is going to be going through the clear coat stage, and we'll be wrapping it up in this video. I'll be including a little bit of the polishing and detailing stage at the end of it as well. The clear coat that I am using is Standox HS clear, so that's a 2K clear, obviously mixed at 2:1 ratio, and then I put a further 10% reducer in it. I find that these kind of HS clears, if you don't put any reducer in them, say what you may do with your medium solids clears, then they're probably going to be a little bit too thick, and they're going to get a very orange peely finish with it. If it is sort of colder weather though, then maybe you've got the option of warming that clear up. That will give you a little bit more viscosity, so make it a little bit thinner without having to put the thinners in it. It'll also aid your flash off times, so you'll probably find that you put your first coat on, come back around and it's ready to go straight away. Put your second coat on and job done. But in this instance, it was probably about 26 degrees Celsius on this day, so I decided to leave it for a full 10 minutes. Especially found that the high solids clears do take a little bit longer to flash off than your medium solids. So if this was a medium solids clear that I was using, I probably would have been right to just continue on with the job. So by the time I'd got the bonnet done, both the bumper bars and all those smaller parts that you'll see down the back end of the booth, I've got a few mirrors and a little bit of a spoiler lower lip as well. By the time I got that done, I probably would have been able to come right back around to the start and continue on without any flash off times as such. I mean, without actually waiting in between coats. But yeah, because it is that high solids clear, it just stays wet a little bit longer, and your curing times will be a little bit longer. So even this is after you've painted it, you know. So in summer, in an Australian summer anyway, where just about every single day is above 30 degrees, you'll just about be right for the last job of the day. Don't even bake it out, but the next day you're usually pretty right to give it a polish. Whereas with a high solids clear, I would probably recommend giving it the bake, even if it's the last job of the day, you're about to walk out of the booth. But if that job needs to go the next day, it's probably still worth giving it that bake out. So just worth keeping in mind the extended drying times of your high solids and your low VOCs compared to your medium solids. I do get a few questions on, what's the difference in application compared to your medium solids or your high solids. Basically, all it means is that it's thicker. And the reason they make it, I think part of it is to do with emissions, and also I think high solids clears probably have a little bit better UV resistance and stuff like that, so they are recommended. Like, I would recommend a high solids clear over a medium solids clear on my own car. Yeah, if it was, top of the line car, I'd probably want to use a high solids or even low VOC clear. And if it's too thick, as I said before, colder months, warm it up. And warmer months, it'll probably be a little bit thinner anyway. Just add up to 10% reducer. I used to use the Glazerite 255 clear in the middle of summer, 10% reducer, absolutely perfect. And I'd use that day in, day out with my HVLP, the H1 air cap on the DeVilbiss GTI. And I was able to replicate those European finishes every day, day in, day out with the 30-70 method that they recommended us using. So it's basically your first coat is what they call a closed coat. So it's just so that you're not able to see through to any of the base coat or any of your blend areas, so that you've just got enough clear to cover the entire panel. And then literally straight away, no flash off times, your second coat as a wet coat, and then that's it, job done, walk out. And with those 2 quick coats, you'll probably have a bigger film build than what you will with 2 coats of MS clear. You've spent less time in the booth, you'll probably have cleaner jobs. I definitely did anyway. The booth will play a bit of a part in that, also prep work as well. But yeah, working in this spray booth here really highlighted to me the kind of finishes that you'll be able to get will actually be determined on your environment, because I've never had so much crap in my paint jobs than working in this spray booth here. Yeah, most of the booths I've ever worked in are full downdraft, so you'll have grates in the floor and you'll have a full set of inlet filters through the entire roof. not like this booth where you've just got a small section, which you will see later on in the video. I'll point that out to you. Yeah, there's just that one spot in this booth that the air draws in from, and it all comes in and it hits the concrete floor, and you may notice that I've got that little bit of water on the floor. That obviously helps a little bit. Any of the overspray that hits the floor will be prone to stick to that water rather than recirculating and turning into dust, but it's still only a band-aid. You're not really going to 100% stop it. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. I've found that where that bonnet is, so directly under the inlet, is actually the cleanest part of this booth. It's weird because usually in the spray booths I've worked in previously, you're actually better off working on the fan end, not the inlet end. But it's just one of those things. Spray booths, they're all different from what I've found, and there's little quirks and things about them that you'll just have to figure out yourself. It took me, probably a couple of weeks to fully get the hang of this booth, to be able to get the best finishes out of it. Just keep the booth as clean as possible, sweep it out every time, put the water down, make sure I clean the walls down. And I've also got that sticky booth coating. It's basically, it's really good. It's a water-based product, and I do actually have another video on that, so check that one out. It's called Spray Booth Service, and the product that I use on those walls is called Pro Cabin, but I don't even work here anymore. I've actually since moved over to Thailand. Most of my followers will know that anyway, and I'm in a bit of a transition period where it's looking like I might end up in Laos for a few months, which is a neighboring country to Thailand. And after that, I may just end up saying, you know what, I've had enough of it, and I want to move back to Melbourne, where I can go and work for my uncle in his prestige BMW collision repair shop with state-of-the-art equipment. And as far as this YouTube channel goes, I'm thinking it may be the best decision for me, working in the best conditions and giving you guys probably some better tips and tricks, and move up to date with the materials that everyone's using these days, because as you may have noticed, all of my videos up to date have still been solvent-based base coats, whereas most of the leading countries, the US and most of Europe, from what I know anyway, have moved towards the water-based base coats, which I'm not really sure if I'm actually sold on it yet, but I guess I should step up to the plate as far as the technology goes, because that's where it's all looking like it's going to be heading. Anyway, that's our first coat down. I'll give you a look at my initial reaction after getting that coat down. So that's our first coat down. I'm really not sure if I even like this LumaIII Lite. I'm trying so hard to like it, but because I'm in a bit of a corner here, I don't have loads of room here. Okay, so I can't really stand right behind that guard. When I was standing like that, I really couldn't see anything that I was doing. I turned it off and I was able to see what I was doing. It was better, so you may have noticed, I did half the bonnet with it off and then the other half with it on. And it was better on the flatter panels and when I was able to stand right behind it. But look, is it gonna change the game? Is it really gonna be the next bit of technology that everyone needs? Honestly, I don't believe it is going to be. Is it cool? Is it innovative? Yes, but I don't believe it's gonna be the next biggest thing in spray painting. I don't even know what it's doing now. It must be out of batteries. Looking like it. Yeah, must be about to run out of batteries. I do have a spare battery, and it comes with two and a recharger, but I'm just going to put the next coat on without it. Look, to be honest, I'm actually not really 100% happy with how this first coat went on. There's a couple of bits of dust in it that I would have liked not to have been there. Although the smaller of them, I'll fill up with that second coat of clear. Man, this bloody GoPro keeps turning off and it's overheating. It's not even that hot. Hopefully this isn't a sign of things to come with this camera. It's only going to get warmer here in Perth, not even summer yet. But all in all, it's coming up okay. Just a little bit more dust in it than what I would have liked. It's partly this booth. You can spend all the time and effort you want, but when you're working in a booth like this, it's very hard to get clean jobs out of it. Yeah, so GTI Pro Lite T20. goes hard. I deliberately use this gun because to get the orange peel consistent with the rest of the car, if I use that solder, it just seems to pump too much paint out, whereas this has got like a very fine orange peel in it. It's not really thick, and I just know exactly what I'm going to get out of that Pro Lite every time. It's like an old friend to me, and sometimes jumping back to it, I just wonder why I ever left it. Easiest gun to use, easiest gun to set up, and it is why I do highly recommend that gun. And anyone from a tradie to a DIY guy, hey, if you're going to paint stuff once or twice a year, yeah, maybe not necessary to get this gun. Get a cheaper gun. Even that SGK, that's another good option. Oh, actually, I hope you're watching. Someone asked me which 1K primer I use, and I said I've got a good Nighthawk one that I've been using that doesn't shrink back. So that's it there. Nighthawk Full Fill 42108 1K acrylic primer, and that is fine with my Concept No Mix base coats over the top. I would imagine it would be very similar with most solvent range base coats over the top of it. Not overly expensive, 80 bucks that primer costs for 4 litres, and I think it was 1-to-1 ratio, or 60-40, something like that. So straight on to our second coat of clear now. As I mentioned before, I gave it 10 minutes in between first and second coat, just to allow it to flash off nice, so I'm not trapping too many solvents in there, which is something that can happen. I thought I'd give you guys also a quick run through the gun settings, because I haven't mentioned that yet. I probably have said it 100 times in other different videos. This is over my 300th video now, and this gun has probably featured in more than half of them, but I'll give it to you again. So it's full fan, 3 turns out on the fluid, and 25 psi, give or take. You know, the kind of finish that I'm looking for here is a fairly flat finish. I'm not looking for a chunky, thick orange peel like you've got on your European cars. It's fairly flat finish on it. It's not overloaded with paint, so that's why I've got it at 3 turns out. If I was going for a more European finish, I might even come out a little bit with that fluid and even lower the pressure down. Yeah, those settings are guidelines, and as I mentioned in the previous video, if there was one setting that made these guns spray perfectly, well then the gun would just be set there from factory, and we wouldn't even have to worry about it. But the truth of the matter is that environmental conditions will change. The kind of finish that you're looking for will change those settings. The kind of paint that you're using. There's loads of variables. So yeah, you have to be, as the technician, you have to be the one that figures out what the right setting is to get the right finish. And I guess partly that's where your apprenticeship comes in. To become a automotive refinishing technician, you're not just going to pick it up by watching a few YouTube videos. Yes, you'll be able to pick up a few tips and tricks, and I've had loads and loads of people tell me that they've picked up, their game has risen since watching my videos. Even the passion for the trade has been reignited to see someone else who loves the trade so much and share it with them. I do love this trade, and there's so much to like about it. We get to make shit look good every single day. Look at a panel better. What do they get to do? You know, like, I mean, yeah, you can get a bit of a kick out of making a car straight again, but they're not doing the final touch. We get to deal with the final touches and make shit look awesome. But yeah, basically what I was saying before is you're not going to become the next Chip Foose or the next best painter just by watching a few spray painting videos on YouTube. You've got to get out there and paint some shit. You literally do. Do an apprenticeship, you know. And I had this guy, he's a viewer of mine, and I recommended a few places for him to go to get an apprenticeship, and he seemed keen, and it just seemed at the end of the day they didn't actually want to do the work. It seemed like a 60-hour week was too much for him. If a 60-hour week is too much for you, well then forget about being a spray painter. I don't even see this as hard work. I honestly don't. It's not like physically demanding on the body. I know what physically demanding is. Go and work out there in the mines, or go and dig garden beds for people, you know, like that's physically demanding work. This, you know, you can be a fat spray painter at the end of the day. The only real thing that's going to happen is that your gut's going to, you know, sit in the bonnet when you get halfway over. Apart from that, you'll be pretty right. You don't need to be that physically fit, and it's not, yeah, if you can't handle doing a couple of hours overtime every day, well then it's not the right job for you. If you're lazy and you don't love the trade and you're a first year, forget about it. And why do you get paid, you know, $7 or $8 an hour as a first year? Because you're not worth anything to us. It's as simple as that. Can't even trust most apprentices to prep a bar up. You know, they can't even sweep the floor properly half the time. But in your first year, the way I've always seen it as an apprentice, if you've got the right attitude, I'll be able to teach you the entire trade. If you've got the right attitude and you want to be there and you're interested and you want to work, well then, yeah, we can teach the rest. If you think you're going to walk straight out of high school into $100,000 a year salary as a spray painter, well, yeah, sorry, it's just not going to happen. There is a big margin for error as a spray painter. There is lots of things that can go wrong, and it takes years and years of practice to know all the ins and outs of spray painting to ensure that you don't have those problems go wrong, and when they do go wrong, how to go about fixing it. Recently had a guy tell me that I should be including more of my mess ups, and I said to him, I do include most of my mess ups. Basically, I've done most of them already and I know how to avoid them because I've learnt from those mistakes. So that's that job done, gun cleaned out. It really hasn't taken long at all for that to tack off. 10 minutes and it's just about touch dry. I'm actually a lot happier with how that second coat went on. Filled up most of those small bits of dust. Yeah, there's still a couple of big ones there, but they'll polish out. Got a really awesome orange peel. It's just about perfect to the car. It's exactly the orange peel I was going for, and I got it. I'm yet to see any runs. That's also good. All in all, quite happy with how it came up. So you may have noticed I ditched the LumaIII and really no worse off at all. Two bits that really pissed me off. It was in my second coat of clear. I saw that piece drop onto the panel. I'm like, man, what the hell are you doing? I don't know where it came from. And there was another bit landed around here somewhere. There it is. Bit of little white dust, so hopefully I'll be able to sand it out in the clear because it was on the second coat. But yeah, orange peel, and that again on this quarter panel looks perfect. Big part of the reason that you do get a bit more dust in this booth is because it's not a full downdraft. If you've got a set of filters in the entire roof and then you've got grates in the floor, and all that air just comes straight down, so it's all filtered air from the roof, and it goes straight down. It's not creating these turbulence and stuff, which is what I get in this booth. I can see it with my overspray, and I can see it pooling up in certain areas, and it hangs up in the air, and it comes back down and lands on your panel after hitting itself, and lands in your panel as a piece of dust. So in some ways, you stuff before you start in these booths. Yep, you can absolutely hose that clear on and get some better results, but the bars came up real nice actually. They were really not in a nice way at all when they came in. After the amount of hours we spent on them, I guess you'd hope they'd look pretty nice. Quite clean too, this one is anyway. This one's got a couple of bits in it, but again, that's just from overspray from here, coming up here and hitting that, and turning into dust. Yeah, no major runs. A few bits of dust, yeah, they'll polish out. All in all, I'm happy with it. Pro Lite, yet again, has come through with the goods. I think I might actually start using it a bit more. On maybe like resprays and stuff like that, the Starter Jet's good because it just hammers it on. But when I'm trying to replicate an orange peel, which is probably a big part of the reason I was so big on these guns when I was working at that previous joint, I can tweak those settings around and even leave the settings the same and just adjust the way you paint, distances, maybe up or down the pressure, and just get a totally different orange peel from Mercedes to the Japanese cars, European or American, and yeah, I'll continue taking you guys through the polishing stage on this and get it all cleaned up. So I painted this car on the Monday. Following day we had to get it ready for the customer. He was picking it up because it was his daily driver So we got the infrared curing lights onto it so that we were able to polish it. If I had have not baked it out, well, then I probably would have wanted to leave it for a couple of days, as I was mentioning before about those drying times of the high solids clears. And yeah, you may have noticed on that bonnet we gave most of it a really good sand down. I didn't really want to go and use the tungsten block on it. It was a little bit too fresh to go and use that. What can happen if you're not careful is it can actually pick up those bits of dust and pull them out, and then you'll actually end up with a low spot. So all I did was sand it down with the 1500 grit. The Kovacs Bufflex is a brand that I'm using. You could obviously replace that with a bucket of water and a block, and then some 1200 grit. Finish it off with 2000, 2500 or something, and then jump on the buff. Here's a little spot of rust that I ended up just gouging out, treating with some rust. This is just around the tailgate opening. Treated it, then put a bit of seam sealer in there. Got a bit of base coat black in the gun. Put a touch of hardener with it just to give it a little bit more durability. Put this little Star minigun onto spot and just puffing a real little bit of base coat on there, low pressure, just to make sure that I don't get overspray all over the entire rest of the car, because as you can see, I'm just giving it a very basic mask up with just a couple of bits of paper, but that's all it really needs. For inside there, I decided it wasn't worth putting any clear coat. If you actually look at it, it's sort of semi-gloss finish anyway, which is where the hardener helps. So you get a little bit of durability, you get the right finish, and yeah, it's all you're going to need. It's not porous, so it's not like any water is going to seep through there. Absolutely fine for that little freebie that we did just there. This is the latest footage we got of the car. The owner was actually here at this point, so I didn't manage to get it once it was all washed up, but we did give it a good clean out for him. Full detail, full cut and polish for him, and I was quite happy with how it came up. The owner definitely got a good deal with it. We didn't overcharge him or anything. The owner of this car is actually a viewer of mine, and he was watching one of my videos and he noticed the workshops that I'm in, and he said, I know where that is, because he's actually friends with my next door neighbor. So I decided to come down and say g'day, and then we organised to sort his car out for him. Hope you guys have enjoyed watching this video set. Be sure to go and check out my website, thegunman.net.au. Check out all my social media. The links are in the description below. Make sure you do check out these couple of videos here. There's links that will take you over to my website as well. Now you've seen this video, get out there and paint some shit. Thanks for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.